life. We continue with the topic about the karmic habits. When we talking about the karmic habits, they always influence us. Um, it lead us into further into birth and death, affliction and suffering. So those habits we don't need to learn, but we always know how to do it. Like the công án of a Zen master bringing a little child at only 1 year old up into the mountain. And after raising the kid in the mountain for continuously 20 years, he was not in contact with anyone beside his teacher. And he's also in exposed to, all of the animals up in the mountain, so he know all of them. And when the child reached 20 years old, the Zen master take him down into the city. At that time, he saw that everything around is so strange, so different. He keep asking his teacher, "What is this? What is that?" And the master explained to the kid, and the kid asked about a woman. What is that? And then the master said, "You remember you see the tiger in the mountain? Um, how powerful is the tiger? This woman is called a market tiger, and the market tiger is even more powerful than the mountain tiger." Um, so he was in contact with the woman during the days, and then after they come back to the mountain, the master asked the student, "What do you like the most out of the city?" And he told the master he doesn't like anything except for the market tiger, which is the woman. So the habit, you can see that no one need to teach us, but when the conditions is enough, then the habits will manifest. So for us, the habits is the habits of birth and death. All such habits of greed, anger, ignorance, etc. We have those habits for countless lives. Therefore, when the conditions is right, we tend to be influenced by those habits. When we practice, we are going against the habits. Even when we see we get awakened, you know, we still have those habits. Therefore, right now on our path to awakening, we have to be very cautious, or else, we will be, um, we will surrender to our habits. And in order to help us overcome the habits when we still not awakened yet, the Buddha taught us that we need to have the right view, we need to have a strong stance, and need to have complete belief in the mind, meaning always ending or transcend attachment, seek nothing, gain nothing, and fear nothing. Um, as long as we keep that in mind, we will be able to overcome those habits, even if we get stopped by those habits. We will not surrender to them, and we will overcome them. Um, So we have to be very careful with our practice. The Buddha even said, um, even for the Bodhisattva that attain the um, the ultimate fruit, he's that Bodhisattva can eliminate most of their um, habits. But for an ordinary person, when they reach awakening, they still have those habits, and therefore they have to enter a protective stage in order to eliminate their habits. So even though they are awakened and they have the same view as a Buddha, but they still not be able to manifest all of the uses of the self nature like the Buddha. Um, Therefore, they have to, like um, protect themselves from those habits. So those were taught by the Buddha and reminded by our patriarch. Therefore, we have to always remember to end attachment, to not so that we don't get influenced by the habits, and doing that by um, practice the 9 words, having nothing to gain, nothing to seek, nothing to fear. And in order to do that, we have to keep the doubt. And in order to keep the doubt, we have to keep the question. Um, so all of those are interrelated, dependent on one another. Um, so we have to be very skillful, like it's like a net, like a fisher who wanna use the net to catch the fish. The net have to be full, um, and same thing for our practice. We have to always um, be exposed to reality. Um, we have to practice and create good habits first, and later on lead us to awakening, and not letting ourselves be fooled by those obstacles. So right now, anybody have any questions? Please bring it up. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dear Thầy, all dear cô and all practitioners, when we talk about the topic of ending attachment and karmic habits, I would like to share some of my experience. I, f- I feel in the practice of Zen, the most precious thing is ending attachment and have belief in the mind. But having belief in the mind is very difficult. This is something we have to accumulate one by one through our practice. Without practice, we won't have belief in the mind. So even when we practice just a little bit, um, even we cannot see it, but if we can practice even just a little bit, our attachment will be lessened a little bit as well. And that little bit will gradually help us increase in the belief in the mind. For example, in the past, we might like to watch soccer, but now we focus on the practice, then our habit of wanting to watch soccer will become lessened. Or when we go meet up with friends, Instead of paying attention to their talking, we focus on the practice, then gradually we feel we don't need to go to those meetup events, but instead we can use that time to practice. Or when we um, participate in those talks, sometimes we might create bad karma from talking about others. But if we use that time to focus on the practice, then our habits of wanting to chat will become less. So the practice, even though we don't intend for it to do anything, it it helps us increase the belief in the mind. Even though we cannot see it, it doesn't have any form, but that belief increase moment by moment through our practice. That is what I figure for myself. This is something that we cannot just hear from others, but have to practice ourselves in order to truly get um, the the intention of the Buddha and the patriarch. Could you please talk more about it? Thank you, thầy. Like chú Hằng, like chú Hằng Cảnh just share his experience. That is a very practical experience, and it is even more precious than any of the talk that we use. Even if someone can talk very nicely, preach very nicely, if they don't practice, then those teachings will not be beneficial. Um, we use the teaching just as a skillful means. Um, it's like a fake medicine to treat a fake illness, and a fake illness is our attaching mind. We attach to different things, and sometimes those things conflict one another without us realizing it. And we keep chasing after them from one life to another. That is ignorance and attachment. So our practice, if we can reduce the ignorance and attachment uh, from our experience, um, even if we don't have a lot of knowledge about um, Buddha Dharma, but if we have the practice, then when we read the teachings in the sutra again, we will be able to get the idea of the Buddha and the patriarch. How is it possible? It's because our mind is open and not get stuck, not attached to anything, any ideal. So our bad habits, same thing. Some people have the habits of wanting to chat, and from those chat, they um, talk bad about other people, and then they predict all kind of nonsense. Those things are illusions. But once we have the know this dharma, know this method to practice, we don't need to forcefully um, make change. You know, we just need to practice, and the practice will automatically, naturally lessen our wanting to chat, and we will be able to recognize that is our bad habits, and gradually we will um, let go of those habits. For example, we usually don't see our mistakes, but instead we always see other people's mistake. But when we know how to when we practice well, automatically we will be able to see our own mistake and fix it ourselves. So that is the practice, following the right Dharma of the Buddha, having nothing to gain, nothing to seek, nothing to fear. And the more we practice, the more we will be clear um, of our own nature. Um, we will be clear of our bad habits, our mistake, of our attaching mind. Then when we are clear of those, they will become less naturally. It's like we have two different um, tendencies that are in the opposite direction. When we go towards one, then we will move away from the other side. So the more we cultivate, the closer we get to the self nature, and the further we are from the ignorance and attachment. But this is just the temporary skillful means. And like the Buddha said, they are just fake medicine to treat the fake illness. So we shouldn't be attaching to um, those fake medicine, or else we will create more illness. So you need to practice, and from there open up your mind, and you have experienced it yourself, and we'll be able to see that birth and death is the greatest issue, um, and will not let time pass or waste. Thank you. Thank you thầy so much. Uh, chú Hằng Cảnh have another question. I would like to share another thing. I'm not sure if it's right or not. Could you please give me advice? For example, when we talk about impermanence, we see our acquaintances pass away. We say it's impermanence because it does not abide to something, it always change. But for example, every day we see anger, sadness, happiness, hatred. It's also impermanence. Our mind never stay at one place. It's also impermanent as well. Like when I'm happy, my family feel happy too. And then when I'm angry, my family was asking why you're just happy, but now you're so angry. And I told my family, oh, it's because it's impermanence. When I practice, I feel like because I'm attaching to my mind, therefore I see that impermanence. But when I truly understand, then I can see the permanence. Actually, there is no sadness, happiness, love, hatred. It's just because I'm attaching to um, how I am, therefore it leads to all of those different states. But if I keep my practice, keep my mind of not knowing, then I will not have to go through all those kind of emotional state. So is it that there is the permanence from the impermanence? Could you please talk more? So what you said is within the uh, area of four statement, but some people tend to attach to the four statement. The reason why we talk about um, permanence is to overcome the impermanence. And people attach to those saying and they ask, why do you say permanence is impermanence? Uh, why do you talk about the permanence of the impermanence, etc.? So we have to understand the language. The words are always within duality, always stuck in notion, concept. But the purpose of the Buddha is not trying to explain those concepts. His purpose is to end our attachment. The reason why he talked about impermanence is to end our attachment to the permanence. Because people tend to attach to their family, their assets, their health, etc., thinking that they all last. But when all of a sudden those things fall apart, then we see the impermanence. And because we never expect of the impermanence of things, then when it happens, we feel suffer. And that's why the Buddha show up and say, "Bec- it's because it's impermanence." And then people attach to that teaching. But actually, all of those are still within the four statement area. They just, like eliminate one another. So the purpose of the Buddha is to end our attachment, but our mind is to want to bring up that issue to discuss. Like there's a verse, the meaning of the verse is um the the Buddha entered Nirvana at Sala Samtha and Dharma went to the western of Thiên Trúc. So they follow the rules of impermanence. They basically just show up like that in order to teach the sentient being. And once they are done with their purpose, they also follow the general rules of life. That is impermanence. So all of those things is to preach the deluded person, to preach the person who are attaching, is to talk about the duality. So all of those example is to see the motionless from the motion, to see the permanence from the impermanence. It's not that we are seeing it the um, backward way, but the purpose is to talk about the true nature. But the self nature is for us to realize, not for us to brainstorm, to think. Therefore, if we want to get awakened, we have to practice. We cannot just try to talk about it. If we still use words to describe it, we will still fall into the area of false statement. and will lead to a lot of obstacles, because everything is within the area of four statement. The first statement is there is. The second statement is there is not. The third statement is uh, neither there is nor there is not. And the fourth statement is there is and there is not. So um, those four statements lead to countless um, ideas, attachment, and ignorance, and lead to delusion, not the self nature. Therefore, the Buddha negate all of his teachings. Same thing, the patriarch also said, don't chase after the words. Um, Only when you don't attach to the words, then you will understand the true intention. So, so thầy, is it that because the sentient being at, attached that there is real death, real birth? That's why the Buddha talk about impermanence. Uh, but also depending on the capacity of the sentient being, the Buddha have different teaching. For example, in the Heart Sutra, the Buddha said there is no old age, there is no death. Therefore, we shouldn't be attaching to those. I think it's depending on people capacity. So if we attach to those, they will become real to that person. Only when we um, awaken, then we will truly understand that there is no old age and death. Right now, we still see that there are old age and death. So the teaching of the Buddha, he tend to talk about uh, both the duality and non-duality. The Buddha said, uh, originally there's no birth and death, there's no ignorance, there's no ending of ignorance. Um, because of our mind creating things, that's why we see their birth and death. In order for us to reach the ultimate achievement, we have to be able to escape from birth and death. So those words of the Buddha, it's just like fake medicine to end our attachment. Uh, the meaning of none doesn't mean having nothing. It means nothing is real. For example, Master Long Thọ have an example about birth and death. Um, if there is death without birth, then there should be death all the time, and that is real death. If there is birth, there should be no death, and there should be birth all the time. That is real birth. But now there is birth and death, so they are opposite to one another. So they are both not real. Just like light and darkness, they take turn. If they truly are real, then light will always be there, or darkness will always be there. But the prajna is transcending all of those duality. So for prajna, birth is not real birth, death is not real death. So the word uh, not none, um, nothing that I'm mentioning is actually the nothing is real. It's like in a dream, happiness or suffering are all still within a dream. There is or there is not is the same because they are both not real. Once we awaken, then the world of dream, the realm of dream will all fall apart. Even though we remember uh, all of those stages, they actually not real. So is it, thầy, that all of the teaching of the Buddha is nothing more than the no attachment? And thầy said the idea of the Buddha is for us to get awakened. It's not about attaching versus non-attaching. We use non-attaching to end attaching. Um, so when we talk about attachment, we talk about non-attachment. Um, as long as we still use words, that is just temporary skillful means. Like in the Yumaka Sutra, Yumaka and Mansuri Bodhisattva, they talk to one another. He asks, what should we use as the root? We say to use the non-attachment as root. But if we are still attached to that non-attachment, that means we still have an attachment. And at the end, they said from the root of non-attachment, we create all Dharma. And at the end, also ending that root as well. So for the wise person like Master Yumaka or Mansuri, when they talk to one another, their idea and their mind are the same. Therefore, when they hear that the Mansuri visit Yumaka, all of the boys here come to visit to listen to their discussion. So that is also a skillful means to um, describe the self nature. Um, but also the self nature is because we are attached to our nature. That's why we we establish the word self nature. So the most important thing is we have to get awakened. We have to put down all of the words and seek out the real meaning. Lots of people claim that they understand prajna, claim that they don't have attachment, they don't have duality, but in reality, they still do. Like they said, they are not stuck, but they're actually stuck. When they say they don't attach, they already attach. So if they truly don't attach, they don't need to prove it to others. So it's because we still not awakened yet. We just chase after the words and we get stuck. Therefore, our practice, we have to always keep the doubt, always raise the question, and keep the doubt. We put down um, the we don't just eliminate our teachings, but we um, instead we don't attach to those words. We use those words to reflect on our practice. Therefore, our patriarch said, always use the ultimate meaning sutra um, to encourage ourselves, to certify for ourselves during the time when there is no wise teachers or no Dharma friends. It's better than we reading news, you know, because reading news just increase our mind of fearing and attaching. If we have the practice, automatically we will go align with the teachings of the Buddha and the Dharma friends. So as a practitioner, we have to always keep the not knowing mind and the practice if, in order to truly not attach. If we still saying we don't attach, that means we still attached to the words of the Buddha and the patriarch. Can thầy explain more? So when we practice, those seed of prajna will lead us in the future lives and lead us eventually to enlightenment. But if we just practice based on our attaching mind or our knowledge, you know, people tend to really like knowledge. Some people, they are very good at speaking and their memory is very good when they are healthy as well. For example, there were some people during the time when they study with Master Wei Li, they remember the teaching very well and they say they talk everything seemed very reasonable. And before that, they even studied from Master Thanh Từ, and they said they created a new method that combine the teaching from both people to help people to reach awakening. So they create their own thing. They talk very nicely. Their argument is very strong. But once they reach their 90 years old, then um, they start getting confused. And sometimes they confuse of the words of the normal people and think that is the words of the Buddha. Sometimes they mix match uh, words from others with one with another. So you can see that they lack the practice, the knowledge of the brain um, will follow the aging of the brain. Uh, when the brain dies, that those knowledge will become dust. It's just like rock or trees. And if we attach to birth and death, when we face death, we will feel fearful and not able to apply the practice. It's such a waste. Uh, in return, there's like an old person doesn't talk much, you know, and let other people teach him a lot. He doesn't say anything, but only remember uh, keeping his Hoa Thâu question. Um, but they still have their own attachment. They tired of their illness. They don't want to live longer. They don't want to burden themselves or burden others. So we advise those people to not think like that. We advise them to have to treasure the human body. Um, how to treasure this human body? The way is to keep the practice. You know, if unfortunately we pass away, we can carry the practice to the next life instead of carrying those bad thoughts that can lead us to the bad realms. If we carry the thought of wanting to die, you know, we are actually committing the killing in our mind, and that can lead us to a very bad realm. Um, Everyone has their own karma, you know. Don't feel like you are burdening your children. Let them have the chance to um, serve their parent, you know. It's just serving parent is just same thing like serving the Buddha, because there's a saying that uh, parents when they're alive is like the Buddha alive, and therefore we told that person like that, and after that, that old person just keep remembering, ask the question, raise the doubt. So he's also in his 90s, um, but he forget about other things, but he doesn't forget about his Dharma friends, his wise teachers, and he doesn't forget about his heart question. So that is something we really appreciate, um, you know. But that is also a very good condition for that person, you know. So you don't need to have a lot of knowledge. As long as you practice, your mind will be clear and bright, even better than the one that, you know, used to have a lot of knowledge when they are younger. You know, the one with lots of knowledge when they're young, sometimes they get confused when they're old. But if the one who's practiced, they can still be sharp when they're old. So the good seed that we plant for this life, it will continue in the next life until we reach enlightenment. I sincerely thank you, Thầy, and thank you everyone for giving me time to share my experience and ask questions. The time is up. Um, Goodbye everyone. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.